little bit of Rolling Stones for you. And when you talk about rockers getting up there in age, boy, you got to think of Mick Jagger and Keith Richards right there at the top. Getting the text messages come in here about the issue of the old rockers. But I want to point this out, and thanks to the text messenger pointing this out. It was today, 39 years ago today, that John Bonham died. And the end, as this texter says, the best rock and roll band ever, Led Zeppelin. I was lucky to see them live in 1979. And then the texter writes this: in the next 10 years, they will all be gone. And texter, boy, you have a point. That's why we're talking about this, and that's why Pierre Landry is in studio with me. Hi, Pierre.
Hi, Lice.
Of course, a lot of our listeners know you as music director and host at CHOM, one of our sister stations. You look at this, and in the tease, I mentioned some of these names. Bob Dylan, 78, McCartney, Simon, Garfunkel, Carole King, Wilson, all 77. You got Jagger and Keith Richards at 76, 75. You go down the list. Van Morrison, 73. Average life expectancy, the numbers aren't working in their favor, right?
No, well...
It'll happen to all of us, by the way, but...
They've all been around musically for some over 50 years,
yeah.
and the fact is everybody dies eventually, right?
Yeah.
But within, the texter was absolutely right. Within the next 10, 15, if we're lucky, all of these rockers will be gone.
And I guess it presents a few challenges or thoughts that go through your head. First of all, we've had in recent memory, we've lost some legends.
2016 was horrible.
It was a terrible year. That's right. And it must hurt. It must hurt you in the feels, right, when that happens.
David Bowie passing away in January of 2016 was one of the worst days of my life because when you're a fan of music, and especially an artist like David Bowie, who would transform himself album after album and with different personas, and you feel this, I don't want to start sounding esoteric, but there's kind of a cosmic connection between you and the artist and the work that they do. And realizing that, they're no longer of this planet, it is a little off-putting and upsetting in many cases. I was saying 2016 was a horrible year. Leonard Cohen died that year. I'm just trying to, remember.
When was Prince?
Prince was 2016.
Yeah.
Scott Weiland was 2016. There's a whole bunch of them. 2017, we lost Tom Petty and Gord Downey in the same month. And we're going to see this more and more. I dread the day Paul McCartney goes. I mean, the planet is going to lose it.
It's going to be, the planet's
It'll be
a
global mourning.
Especially because, here's the thing, you're in the music business as a music director, especially of late now. Music has become so niche. Everyone's got a different playlist, right? But when you go back 50 years, it was a much more bonding kind of thing, right? So you've got these people that love, whether it's the Stones or the Boss or, whoever, the Beatles, that kind of stuff. And it connects people. So I think that comes into play here too, right? As these legends that have been in the public sphere for 50 years, 60 years start to go, it's going to have that huge impact.
Absolutely. And many of those artists that you mentioned are cross-generational.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, that's it too, right?
My kids love the Beatles. They're 13 and 9. Technically they weren't even around when they stopped making. I mean, I was born after the Beatles broke up, and it's still one of my favorite bands. So I think, yes, there is a generational aspect to it, and baby boomers grew up with this music, so it is part of their childhood as well.
Yeah.
But for those who followed and fell in love with the work, the music, and those people as well, it's as devastating.
And the connections we have with our parents who listen to that music, and then you still listen to it, and now you're sharing it with your kids. It has that ramification. What about programming? I mean, when you got to make programming decisions in an era like this, and you're looking at the next 10 years, how does it affect that?
Well, when Bowie died, a perfect example, CHOM threw the whole programming out the window, and it was all about David Bowie. So we played as many tracks as we could get our hands on, and taking texters and reading comments, and there's kind of a collective aspect to broadcasting where people turn to us
during these moments, right?
They
want to feel part of something,
and they want to share what that music means to them. And for us, it's about letting people voice their opinions, even through rock radio. But the connection is strong, and the feelings are very, very accurate, and there's something very visceral about being sad about somebody dying. But as you were mentioning, it's also that those songs mean something to some people. And, we're married to certain songs. Kids are born to certain songs.
And it's that thing, right? There's something about music and audio that you hear a song and you remember where you were and what happened at this point, right?
Absolutely.
When you look at the future, are you just, you're looking at this 10, 15-year window and is there dread? Or do you say, you know what? Music industry has always been so resilient, and there's the next group and there's the next group.
Well, it all depends. The music will always live on. John Lennon was shot dead in 1980. That's almost 40 years ago. His songs are still on the radio. Elvis Presley has been dead now for 40 some years, 45 years, whatever it is. He's still very, very popular nowadays.
And sometimes it's that death that leads to people rediscovering a resurgence.
We always see that. Yeah. The week after the passing of a musician, the songs go back into the charts. People either buy or now stream their music. Yeah. So yes, there is a resurgence after the passing of someone. But I mean, you were asking about the future of rock and roll after these rockers die. We're seeing fewer and fewer bands, to be honest. Like, I don't think Imagine Dragons is going to save rock and roll. And no offense to Imagine Dragons, but we're seeing fewer and fewer rock bands out there these days.
It's not the number, but the fewer big acts? Are you saying like just overall, or is it the big, the sort of world shaking acts that we're missing out on?
Well, you think of
the future U2s, you know what I mean?
Well, see, exactly. I mean, U2, you think of maybe the Foo Fighters on a global level. You have up and comers like Greta Van Fleet, but I mean, they've got one album under their belt. So what's going to happen 5 years from now? We don't know. Yeah. But we haven't seen in recent memory, like the big band arrive in the same way that we saw in the 1970s and 80s, perhaps, or even 60s.
Pierre Landry, 50 years of CHOM, by the way.
Yes.
Félicitations. You're celebrating this year.
October 28th, we're doing a huge show at the M Telus. If we can plug CHOM.com.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
sister
stations,
Sister
right?
stations. It's all the same family.
CHOM.com is where you'll get details, because you can buy tickets on sale on Friday. Yeah. Michel Pagliaro, there's a rocker from Quebec that'll be there. The Tea Party, The Damn Truth, Sam Roberts Band. Yeah. And a bunch of surprises as well.
It's so wonderful. I'm so happy about that. Pierre, come on by the studio anytime you want.
And you come by the party. You're invited.
I am there. I'm totally going to be there. And of course, as one texter reminds us, there's always holograms after they go.
Oh, goodness.